We're going to start with the Parsha of the week. The Chitas, we're starting the portion of the week. Today is Friday, which is the sixth portion in the portion of Teruma. We are holding on chapter 27, verse number 1. And you're going to make an altar. This is the altar. Atze Shittim, made out of acacia wood. Chamesh ames erech, 5 cubits it's long, v'chamesh ames reichev, and 5 cubits is its width. Ravua, it needs to be a square. Hamizbeach, this altar needs to be a square. V'shalosh ames kamasai, and it needs to be 3 cubits its height. So Rashi says the words are to be understood literally. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi says here square, and considering the inner altar, it says square. There was 2 altars in the Mikdash, the outer altar and the inner altar. Which one was called Mizbeach HaNechoshes? The Mizbeach of copper was outside. Mizbeach Hazav, the Mizbeach, the altar of gold, which was inside the inside. The outside altar was mainly for sacrifices. The inside altar was only for ketotis, was incense that was brought every single day. So thus is the height has twice its length, meaning it's 1 cubit long and 2 cubits high. Here too, its height was twice its length. This method is expounded and known as Gzera Shava. How do I understand the height shall be 3 cubits? This means the measure from the edge of the Soivev ledge surrounding the altar high was 3 cubits. So this is what Rashi is saying. The height of this Mizbeach was, this was the outside, the Mizbeach of copper. This is just without its ramp. They'll soon see later. So the corners were tefach. The bottom was what was an amma and 1/5 of a tefach. We'll soon get the whole picture in a moment. It'll give us a better picture in a moment. We'll see Rashi. So the Torah continues. Sisa kai noisav alabar pi noisav. You have to make its horn, so to say, on the 4 corners. Mimenu tia hakanoisav. From it comes its corners. That's the corners of the Mizbeach. These were the corners. 4 corners. They came out like horns. That's why they're called keren, horns. Its horn shall make from it, and you shall overlay it with copper. So Rashi again, this means that you should make it from it. It should come out of the walls. You shouldn't make 3 corners and connect it to the Mizbeach. It's a piece of the Nechoshes. Why was this altar made out of copper? So Rashi says this is to atone on brazenness. Al azus metzach. This is a tone on brazenness. It says, and your forehead is brazen, the chusha. The choshes, which means copper, is also to the mean to brazen or bold. This came to forgive on the chutzpah of Yidden, on the brazenness in the negative way of the Jewish nation. You shall make pots, and I'm going to show you the picture. Okay, the top is the siroisav, the pots. The middle is the shovels, and the bottom is the mizrakos. So the top was take out the ashes. The bottom was the thin shovels to remove the ashes, and the mizrakos was the vessels that were used to sprinkle the blood. Now you see that this vessel was in a pointy situation, so you can never put it down. because the blood was not allowed to put down on the floor. So they made these vessels that if you put down, it would fall over. So the Kohen never put the vessel down on the floor, as we're going to learn in the book of Leviticus. So you have to make the pots, remove its ashes, and its shovels, and its sprinkling places, umizerklois, to the flesh hooks, and its scoops. You have to all these utensils. So that's the mizlakois, is the hooks, and machteisav, and the fire pans. All these, the chol kelav, to all the vessels of this altar were all nechoshes, or all copper. So the outside mizbeach was made out of acacia wood inside and copper on the outside. So Rashi's Seroisav is pots l'dashnoi, to remove the ashes. And Rashi brings all proofs. That's the amazing of Rashi. He knew the whole Torah. 24 books of Torah was all in his mind. You know, there was no Google those days. Everything was in his mind. He brings out all the places where it says this word to show what it means. Next Rashi, v'yav, and its shovels, and shovels which were the Kohen takes ashes. They are similar to a kind of a thin metal lid on a pot, and its handles. Mizrakais lakaba dam. These were the mizrakais, the sprinkling bases, which was received the blood. Umizraglagayev is the sort of a bent hook with which the Kohen would strike the sacrificial flesh. The hook would be embedded in it, and with them he would turn it over on the coals of the altar prior in order to hasten its burning. So that was mizlagav. We saw that picture, the hook. That hook. U'machteisav, and its scoops. That was the machteisav, is the scoops in the bottom picture. The machteisav, beis kibble. This was that had a cavity in which you take the coals from the altar and carry it into the inner altar, right? The inner altar was where the incense was burnt. So that was the Kohen, as we'll learn this all in Vayikra, in Leviticus, the Kohen would take part of the coals of the outer altar, and he would bring it into the inner Beis Hamikdash, the inner altar, and he would put it there and put the incense on top of the coals. The chol kelav to all is and he shall make for it a copper grating of net work. And this is the picture. Copper braiding of net work. You see the picture? That was the braiding, the copper braiding on the Mizbeach. A copper grating of netted work, I'm sorry. And you shall make it of netting 4 copper rings, as you see, the 2 rings on one side and the 2 rings on the other side of its 4 ends. So here you see the design of in the middle. Now here you see the 3 amas, if you can see the measurements. So from the netting to the top was 3 amas. Then there was from the bottom of the Mizbeach to the top of the Mizbeach was 5 amas. 5 amas. Depends again how much an amma is. If it was 15 or 18 inches an amma, that's how tall the Mizbeach was. 5 amas, you have to either multiply it by 18 or 15 or maybe even bigger. Rashi says, make a copper grating of netted work, and you shall make it a netting 4 copper rings on both of its ends. Michbar, the word meaning a sieve, which is called cribble in French, a sort of garment made for the altar, made with thin holes like a sort of a net, The verse is inverted, and this is the meaning. You shall make for it a copper grating of netted work. Verse number 5. You shall place it beneath the ledge of the altar from below. And the net shall extend downward until the middle of the altar. That is the middle of the altar. Rashi continues. Okay, Rashi again goes in so this is a long Rashi. So let's see how we'll learn this surrounding ledge. Anything that encircles anything else is called a karka. As we learn in the chapter entitled "Everyone May Slaughter," the following are the unfinished wooden vessels. Any vessel that is destined to be smooth or branded lekarkais. This refers to the practice of making round grooves or bands in the planks of the wall of a wooden chest and benches. For the altar as well, he B'Tzalel made a groove around it a cubit wide. The groove was in all its walls for decoration, and that was at the end of the 3 cubits of its height. So you had 3 cubits on the top, and then it had this surrounding beautiful net. So that's the calculation. Here's your 3 amas, and then you had this surrounding net. And now she goes through this whole thing, and how, again, how this all shows in the Torah that this is the way, because it's very unclear. The only way we understand it is when Rashi explains how this Mizbeach looked. So Rashi continues, we'll go a little more, Rashi. Thus, the grading of was a cubit wide, and this was a sign in the middle of the altar, the height, to distinguish between the upper blood and the lower blood. So there was, as we'll learn in Vayikra, there was sometimes they put the blood on top, on the upper part of Mizbeach, and sometimes they put the blood on the lower part of the Mizbeach. Corresponding to this, they made the altar, the tepe, kind of a red line, another addition, little red line in the altar center point, and a ramp upon which the Kohanim would ascend the altar. Although the Torah does not explain this in this section, we already informed this in the Parsha that begins, in the altar of earth you shall make me, and you shall not descend with steps, shall not make steps. So now we know, it doesn't mention it over here, but we know that before already in Exodus. If in Yisrael, if they're giving the Torah, if the Matan Torah, the 10 Commandments, God says, you're not allowed to make an altar with steps on it. It has to be a ramp. Thus, we learned that the altar had a ramp. All above, we learned in Mechilta. The altar of earth mentioned in Exodus was the copper altar in which they filled with earth. So this was hollow. The copper altar was hollow. It's hard to see that. The copper altar was hollow, and they filled it with earth, and this was the ramp ultimately that went to this altar. So Mizbeach Adama, even though this was copper and acacia wood, the center was hollow, and that's where they filled the earth in it. Center of the Mizbeach was hollow. So it doesn't say explicitly, but you have to put all the psukim together, what Rashi says, and put it together. The ramp was in the south of the altar, separate from the altar by a handbreadth. Its base reached until the cubit adjacent to the hanging of the courtyard of the Mishkan. According to the opinion, it says that it was 10 cubits high. According to the opinion, it says that it was, the words are to be considered literally, its height shall be 3 cubits, the ramp only 10 cubits long. So that's a problem. It's not clear. See, we this ark, this mizbeach to be 3 cubits, mean that it's only 3, like a very small mizbeach, under 3 feet. But most rabbis hold, which Rashi says, the mizbeach was ultimately 5 amas. It was 5 amas high. The 3 amas is only the top part. It's hard to understand, hard to see it in the pasuk. Therefore, you have to learn the Gemara, how the Gemara proves exactly that's the way it was. This is the height, 3 cubits. In the verse, the ramp is 10 cubits. Found the Mishnah in Midas when I stated that the ramp was separate from the altar by the width of a thread, a hairbreadth. This is all brought down in Masechta Zvachim, where we learn it from the text. So you have to go learn the Gemara to really understand exactly how the sages took the verses to understand exactly how this Mizbeach was built. Now the Mizbeach, the ramp was separate from the Mizbeach itself. As I said, the ramp was actually a headbreadth away from so there was 2 different pieces: the ramp and the altar. So when they moved it, they took it up separate. They carried it separate. The ramp was put on a wagon, and the Mizbeach was carried by its rods. Vasisa Badim. That's why on this Mizbeach, again, this was the Mishkan, where there was a movable tabernacle. Everything had to be carried. Either was carried on wagons or was carried by hand. So the Kli HaMikdash was carried by hand. And that's why they needed to have rings and rods, because they needed to be carried by hand. He shall make poles for this altar. Atze shitim these poles should be made out of acacia wood, and they shall be covered with copper. Say says, you shall take the poles and you'll insert it into the rings. Badim, and the poles will be on both sides of the altar. But say, when you carry this Mizbeach, when you're going to carry it, you're going to have to carry it. And the fire, later on, we'll learn that the fire never went off the Mizbeach. That means when they carried it, wherever they carried it while the Mizbeach was still burning. There was still fire on the Mizbeach. We'll learn that later. So this Mizbeach always needed to have a fire upon it, 24/7, 365 days a year. Even when they traveled, there needed to be the fire on the Mizbeach. The verse Luchais Tasa Isa, you shall make it hollow out of boards. Kasheresa Isa Bahar Keyasu, like I showed you on the mountain, so shall you do. Ashi says the boards of acacia wood from all sides of the space in the middle. That's I explained to you before that this Mizbeach, the acacia wood, the inside was hollow, 4 boards put together and a hollow inside, which was needed to be filled by sand. Also, the Noivus Lud, the corner horns was where they poured the blood in, so the blood went straight into the earth. But you shall make 1 piece of wood that should be measured 5 cubits by 5 cubits, like a sort of a solid block. Okay, that completes the chumash of the day, the building of the Mizbeach. As I said, the Mizbeach HaChitzain, the outer Mizbeach, the Mizbeach HaNechoshes, the Mizbeach of copper, the Mizbeach of the Karbonos, the Mizbeach that was the busiest part of the Beis HaMikdash was this Mizbeach, which which every day sacrifices were brought on, and the holidays, which are many sacrifices, except this was a very busy part of the Beis HaMikdash. Most busiest part of the Beis HaMikdash was the Mizbeach, that all the sacrificial offerings that we're going to learn later in the book of Vayikra, in the book of Leviticus. And that completes the Chumash of today. The Alter Rebbe is in the middle of chapter 27. And the Alter Rebbe is dealing and saying to a person who has machshava zoros, who has evil thoughts, and it's depressing him. Why? I'm such a holy person. Why do I have evil thoughts? I'm such a gewaltige guy. Why do I have evil thoughts? And the Alter Rebbe says, what do you mean? Why you have evil thoughts? You have a nefesh habahamis. You have an animalistic soul. And your animalistic soul always wants you to think evil. And what's your job? Is to push it away. Not only it's your job, it's a mitzvah. That the Eibishter gave you a mitzvah. That when it comes to your mind, push it away. Think of something else. And therefore, not only should you be sad for having evil thoughts, you should be happy. How many mitzvahs will God give you every time I push it away? So why am I depressed? If I understand that, why am I depressed? Now to that says there's one reason why I'm depressed. You know why I'm depressed? On the contrary, people are depressed. I'm not talking clinically depressed. We're not talking about that. We're talking about the majority of people who are depressed because what they think of themselves. And most people are depressed because of their own ego, their own deceit. They don't want to be who they are. They want to be somebody else. And I heard an expression, somebody told me, you can't be somebody else because that's taken already. He does not know his place. He wants to be somebody else. The Eibishter gave him, God gave him a certain place in this world. He's not happy with it. He wants somebody else's place. And therefore, we're depressed. We're not a tzaddik. We're not a tzaddik. We all want to be tzaddikim. Well, my friend, God didn't make you a tzaddik. God made you, hopefully, that you should be a Beinoni. So therefore, wake up and smell the coffee, as they say. Know who you are. Stop trying to be somebody else. And that's the biggest problem. So we always we hope, I wish I could be somebody else. I wish I could be something else. I wish I could be someplace else. So you're not makim b'keimer. That's his expression in the Mishnah. Who is a wealthy man who is happy with his lot, with his chelik, with his situation? So tzaddikim, if I was a tzaddik, if I was a tzaddik, such stupidity would never fall into me. If I was a tzaddik, I would never even think this way. So that's what I'm thinking this way. That already shows who I am, that I'm not a tzaddik. And you know what? That's fine. If a person would recognize his station, my friend, I'm far away from being a tzaddik. I wish I was a Beinoni. And not a wicked person all my days, and even for 1 hour. That's that this is the service of a Beinoni. The service of a Beinoni is to know who I am and say, okay, this is what I am. I am a person that has maybe evil tendencies. I have a person that has capability of evil thoughts. I have a person that has a capability of evil desires, and I'm going to do more. I'm going to do something positive with it. You know what I'm going to do with it? I'm going to make more mitzvahs. I'm not going to deny the fact who I am. I know who I am, and I'm going to use it out for the good. And not only use it out for the good, I'm going to be happy that God has given me the capability to do more mitzvahs. What's my job? Lichbesh hayetzer, to subdue the evil impulse, my evil impulse. Ve'irhure, and the thoughts that arise from my heart to the mind. And what do I got to do? As we learned last night, to completely avert the mind from it. Think of something else. Don't fight with it. Don't challenge it. Think of something else. And to avert his mind from it. To push it away with his two hands, as I explained you. Chapter 2. And that is a schus in essence. I should realize that who I am, and a schus that the Eibishter gave me to do more mitzvahs. That's what we say in davening. The Eibishter gave them, wanted to give the schus to Yidden. Mitzvahs. So God gave you so much of learning and so much mitzvah to avert myself constantly. So whatever entices, whatever you can use, whatever tool I can use, whether it's learning, whether it's going out and doing something positive, whether it's doing something holy, avert your mind, avert your thought. And not only by averting your thought, you're not going to chas v'shalom be depressed anymore. You can do a mitzvah. You're going to be able to do a mitzvah. So therefore, stop wanting to be somebody else. Be who you are, and be happy who you are, and be successful in everything that you do. And be b'simcha, especially be b'simcha. Be in a state of great joy. Very powerful teaching today of the Rebbe, the Alter Rebbe in Tanya. Today is the third day of the month, which starts on chapter 18, and it goes till chapter 24. 18 to chapter 24. If you do the Tillim of the day, you would have done the Chitas of the day. My friends, tomorrow is Shabbos. Sure you all know. And I hope you continue to learn the Chitas by yourself. And we'll meet each other after Shabbos Sunday, start a new Parsha Tzava, and we will continue with the Tanya and the Chitas of the day. I wish you a wonderful Shabbos, a happy Shabbos, a very healthy Shabbos, and God bless you all. Hope to see you all in Shul. Wherever you are, you should go to Shul and hear Parshas Truma, the whole portion that we learned the whole week. You'll hear it and you'll understand it when you hear it in the Torah reading on Shabbos. Have a good Shabbos, everybody. Shabbat Shalom.